Good. Still spinning. All right. Oh, we got, for some reason, the Periscope had an error there. There we go. The Periscope's good.
People are pouring in now.
There we go. That's what we want. It's Tuesday morning. You know, everybody's hungry, as we're seeing here from EJ. Geez, I'm hungry. What's for breakfast? A big helping of Broncos, probably the most talented position on the group, on the team. But let's get into it. Guys, welcome in. This is Broncos for breakfast every Tuesday and Thursday morning from 8 o'clock Mountain Time on. Well, probably that's the dead time right now. We'll see how the super chats are going, but probably a little shorter most of the time while it's dead season here. But you know, we'll go as long as we're feeling the love too. So welcome into Broncos for breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, joined by Scott Kennedy. You can follow us both on Twitter. Myself at Nick Kendell MHH and Scott at Scout Kennedy. Also, please make sure you follow us on Twitter at Huddle Up Pod and at Mile High Huddle. Also Facebook, guys. I know there's a lot of Facebook people in here. I can see the eyeballs starting to pour in. Let's get some thumbs up though on the Facebook side of things. We'd appreciate that a heck of a lot. And while you guys over on Facebook, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Join both those groups. Join the conversations. That can be after you leave the like on the video, of course, but that could be a lot of fun over there. A lot of hypotheticals going on. And if you can be one of the guiding lights that guides us away from the drivel that has turned into the quarterback conversation sometimes, that would be awesome. We love you for that. God. Also, the main platform joining us today is YouTube. If you are on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share. Subscribe, like, and share. I think that's backwards. It should be like, subscribe, and share. That's just, it rolls off the tongue much better. What are you doing, Chad? He's the one who says, get your swag on with the SCH. So I don't know. He's allowed to pass, though. He's the boss man. Also, YouTube people, please go over.
And you don't wait. I have one problem with that. You don't pay for swag.
Yeah.
The whole point of swag is we all get.
Pay the iron price.
Swag. That's what it means. You don't pay for swag. So be a supporter through that type of stuff. I see Nick. I'm gonna take that. Nick is saying, thanks for all of you that are hitting that YouTube and subscribing to my channel. And I'm bringing that up right now because I've got a treat just for you, Nick. Treats. Not just for you, but it's one that I think you will especially enjoy. I went and dug through the archives yesterday. I've got computers all over this house. You don't throw away computers. You just repurpose them. And I went and found my Malik Willis game that I went to when I moved back to Georgia in 2016. And it is spectacular video. It's one I shot myself, so the video is just pristine. I'm going to recut it and load that up on my channel today, because when I went to see him, I started posting a little bit about him, and they're like, oh yeah, Virginia Tech wants him as a defensive back. I'm like, no way, because someone is going to tell this kid quarterback, and they're going to be right, because that's quarterback. He is a quarterback. He's not a defensive back, and quarterbacks don't want to play defensive back. They want to play quarterback. So Auburn told him quarterback, and they flipped him, and I'm going to post that video today that I went and saw. It only took one game. I was convinced. I'm like, that's quarterback. So I'm going to post that this afternoon.
But heck yeah, I know that he's going to be one that's going to be controversial. Like, he's not the same athlete as Lamar Jackson, but he's a fun one. He's got some work to do, but I'm all about those tools. Trey Lance went number 3 overall last year after 1 year of tape at Division II. So, but just because of his tools, also because of his intangibles, intelligence. But those
are tools. They're just not measurable tools.
Not the measurables, not the physical tools. But yeah, guys, go check out Scott's page, youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. Also, you can go check it out. I posted the group link right here. We'll put it on this one. Click that. It'll take you to his page. And the football season is getting closer. You're gonna want to get your prefaces, like the leading up to it, the preamble of the season. And we got you covered there, but so does Scott. Speaking of gotten us covered, Scott, did you miss me last Thursday? What's going on?
It was easy because of this group. It was tough. Good. I felt like all right, I don't do 15 minutes of intros. You and I can go and say hellos, and I look at the clock, we're already 15 minutes in. But I get through that, and I was clock watching a little bit. I'm like, all right, and next. Okay, what can I do? But we went about 15 minutes, and the community was easy on me because, like I told you before we went on live, I can't get George Patton out of my head. It's just stuck. When you meet somebody and you call them the wrong name, they're that name for life. You know, I had two kids I coached in baseball that I met at the exact same time, Lennon and Lawson. You think I got their names right for a year? No, I didn't. Now I've got Jaden and Braden. They're two middle infielders. And I sound like, my grandfather calling the kids in, Jaden, Braden, Sean, you 23, come on, get in here. So I appreciate the group we had here. They were, they treated me nicely.
Well, that's great. That's good to hear. Glad you didn't miss me too much. I did see, I'm trying to find it right now. Did you see that funny meme that somebody posted? The Lord of the Rings one?
Yes, I did. That was solid. Yeah. You're much more active on Twitter, so it'll probably be easier for me to find.
Yeah, that killed me as a Lord of the Rings reference. So if we find it, then we'll pull it up and share it. But whoever made that,
I'll send it to you right now.
I'll pull it up. Okay, boom, there it is.
That was funny.
And it's from.
I take a little bit of umbrage to that. It's like I've been giving people news for 20 years. That's what I've done. It's not like where I've always worked with different teams as opposed to, like Chad has always been a Denver guy and Mike Fisher has pretty much always been a Dallas Cowboys guy. I was in recruiting, so I was news and draft. So I've been news for everybody. When you grow up an Atlanta sports fan, you have to have other teams. You have to look for the process because especially when you grew up like I did in the 80s, my teams were dreadful. The Hawks were solid. I had Dominique Wilkins and Kevin Willis and Doc Rivers in that group, but they were never more than a second round playoff team. But the Falcons and Braves were woeful when I was a kid.
Man, they had some good years then coming after that. But yeah, this killed me. Shout out to Chase Wellner for making it very good. MHH community never thought I'd get news, Bronco news from a Falcons fan, and then Scott, what about news from a friend? MHH community, I could do that. So shout out to you, Chase. That gave me a very good chuckle. Anytime you can make a Lord of the Rings reference, I'm here for it. That is number one for me. Speaking of number one, let's get to the community. You guys are number one. Des coming in saying, good morning, Broncos. Good morning to you, Des. Mike Gibbons saying hello to Des as well. Good to see you, Mike. Good to see you. And also Mike says, good morning. Scott, where's mine, Mike? What's going on here?
He catches you. He gets you.
Does? Okay.
Yep.
There we go.
You had to talk and do business while I was reading the chats. Mike might get you.
There we go.
Mike said hello to me because I jumped into the chat before you were on.
Okay. So there we go.
Don't take it personally. There's reasons for everything.
I'm gone one day. No, EJ, good morning. Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Hungry. What's for breakfast? Like I said, so got some edge rushers coming in here. There's Mike saying, good morning, Nick and Scott.
If edge rushers are on the menu, then quarterbacks are for breakfast. That's what we're having.
Hell yeah. AFC West quarterbacks. Mo Ron in here. Love you, Mo Ron. Morning, guys. Glad to be here. Dave Glassman in the house. Good to see you. Clayton Huron. Good to see you. Also, Clayton doing the Lord's work here, saying smash that like button. Listen to him. Oh, here's Chase. Chase, shout out to you for the meme. Lord of the Rings memes. I'm here for it. Outside linebacker. Let's call it edge. Let's just all agree. Edge rusher number 4 up for grabs. Absolutely. That's what we're here for today. Facebook user, morning fellas. Well, we'll see who this is, but what up, Broncos country? Broncos for brunch, Richie Rich. Good to see you, Jamal Killings. Love you, Jamal. And Greg Smith in the house. Good evening, fellas. Where are you at, Greg? I thought you were stateside, but maybe not. Moron, with a question for you here. We'll keep going here. But why did Malik Willis transfer from Auburn to Liberty?
I'm going to say Bo Nix.
Oh, he said he answered.
Bo Nix at the time was a number one prospect in the country, Auburn legacy, Alabama kid, all those things going against you when you're the project coming in from Roswell, Georgia. And he transferred out where he could get some more time because Bo is going to be a 4-year starter at Auburn. And it looked that way the minute he signed.
Yep. Bo Nix. We got Clayton saying, drinking my coffee and listening to your show. Love the show. Thank you very much. Let us know what you're drinking for coffee. I myself, my aunt and uncle sent my wife and myself a very nice Ninja coffee maker for our wedding. Probably one of the nicer wedding gifts we got. And I made the over ice function for it today, rocking my new Hurricane Ridge glass because we were up there.
Well, you've got to have the ice. So I think we sent y'all about 30 degrees. So it's been incredibly mild in the Southeast. Went for a walk this morning. It was 70. Low mid 80s as for the high in July. Are you kidding me?
Perfect. That's the best.
So we've sent you about at least 20 degrees of our weather. So I got a hot coffee right now.
Okay, there you go. Alejandro Zamora coming in here. Good morning, Broncos country. Good morning to you. I met a chicken chaser in Georgia. Crazy sounding job. That does sound like a crazy sounding job. But I think Von Miller does that. Matt Henrian, morning guys, stoked for the show. Mr. Sir McLovin over on Twitch. Hello, shout out to Twitch lovers. Also rocking the McLovin license plate there, or the ID. I can see it. What's up, fellas? Why didn't you go with Muhammad there, Mr. McLovin? Salt Lake City in the house. Good to see you, JD. Nick, how was your time off in the backcountry? It was good. Didn't do too much backcountry stuff this week. It was more driving around, hitting some spots. Did go up to Hurricane Ridge, saw a bunch of waterfalls, Crescent Lake. Sunday, though, I went on a 14-mile hike with 4.7K elevation gain. So my legs are still a little bit jello, but it was beautiful. And I'm going to climb Mount St. Helens on Saturday. Have to start at midnight because it's scorched earth and you are exposed to the sun the whole time and it's black. So it's like 15 degrees hotter elsewhere. So you have to start in the pitch of night. But I've done it. I did it last November as well. So I'm really excited for that. Stephen Barr coming in. Good afternoon, guys. In Scotland. Good to see you, Stephen, over in Scotland. Michael coming in. Good morning. Nick and Scott for Broncos for breakfast. Welcome back, Nick. Go Broncos. Kevin's in the house. Go Broncos. Greg Smith saying still half asleep. Good morning, Nick and Scott. There you go. Yeah, let's see. Anybody else in here? Dina coming in. Hi from Perth. Hot there in Perth. Broncos fan from afar.
No, I haven't gone all the way. To the farthest I went was where the Red Rock is. That's just, I think, as far in as I went in Australia. Uluru. I forgot what it's called. It's been almost 16 years since I went to Australia. Awesome. Loved it.
Need to go. Made a bunch of friends in Australia when I toured Europe. So that was, need to get out there and say hello. And this is a trend we should start going. Let us know what coffee you're drinking. If you guys are drinking a coffee, what's going on? Corey.
It goes with the theme of the show for sure. What's your morning kick me starter?
Corey Johnson saying I have a medium roast with fresh grown mint leaves. Oh man, that's there you go. Everybody gives awesome. Me a heart. That sounds really good. Clayton saying French vanilla creamer. Hopefully there's some coffee with that French vanilla creamer, but no judgment here. Moran question here. We'll get to it, guys. Richie, Rich, Scott, and Nick, it looks like wanted to talk about edge. What are your thoughts on the interior rush? What are your thoughts there and your concerns? We'll get to it. Oh, Clayton also saying and peanut butter toast. Good to see. I always have my protein bar in the morning.
If you are a peanut butter fan, the Peter Pan honey roasted peanut butter is ridiculous. It's when that stuff's in my house, I put on a pound a week. It's like, all right, get rid of it. It's got to go. It's got to go. I put on 1 pound a week when the Peter Pan honey roasted peanut butter is in my house.
Lonnie Alexander coming in with stars, I think, here. Good to see. Thank you very much, Lonnie, over on Facebook. Appreciate you. And Clayton's also drinking Highlander grog and his coffee, so yummy. And Gary Leeds Palmer, the star coming in here. Good morning, Broncos country. Great to see you, Gary. Hope you're doing well, and hope you had a good time. Hope things are going well, and welcome into Tuesday morning. Let's get to the meat and potatoes here today, which is going to be the edge rusher position. Obviously, last 2 years, there's been a lot of hype in Broncos country, a lot of talk of potentially what could be the best edge rushing duo in the entire NFL in Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. And back in 2018, we saw that. We saw what could be with that duo. I think Von Miller had 12 and a half sacks. This is just completely off the top of my head, but the 2018 Bradley Chubb's rookie season, Von Miller had 12 and a half sacks and Bradley Chubb had 10 and a half. I could be off there. Somebody could correct me, producers on it, but Broncos really good that season. I remember going to my first game ever at actually Mile High and seeing Bradley Chubb absolutely tear up Andrew Whitworth. I think that was the year the Rams went to the Super Bowl as well. So very good edge rushing duo. Issue is we've had injuries the past 2 seasons for that duo. Bradley Chubb gets injured his sophomore year after kind of a slow start, out for the season. Then Von Miller last year, unfortunately, injured before the season starts and never get to see him. Fortunately for me, being typically not trying to be a homer, but with Von Miller, I am a homer. Von Miller's back this year. The Broncos tried to play hardball with him. They wanted to get him to get a contract restructure. He said no. Broncos went out. They aggressively pursued Leonard Floyd, who ended up getting 14 to 16 million a year. Okay, here we go. 2018, Mo. Thank you very much. I was off by 2 on both of them. 14.5 for Von and 12 for Chubb. That's incredible. Man, that team should have been a little better. Case Keenum's the best quarterback the Broncos have had since 2014, unfortunately. But I have heavy emphasis on unfortunately. But thank you very much, Mo, for checking me. You are now the producer, Mo Ron. My producer is a Mo Ron. But Broncos hopefully getting after it this year with the edge rusher position and Von Miller, Bradley Chubb back. I guess, what are the expectations? What do we expect this year? Von Miller, a year older, Bradley Chubb contract, year before the 5th-year option. What to expect for the Broncos edge rushing duo, which on paper might be the best edge rushing duo in the NFL this season.
Yeah, and again, it's the elephant in the room is health, right? Health and age, but Von Miller, and sometimes those go hand in hand. But Von Miller being healthy, if he comes back, I don't think double digits is out of the question here. So if you go maybe flip those numbers, if you look at Miller at 14.5 and Chubb at 12, now that one's slowing down and one's coming back from an injury or something with 17 games, I think maybe you can flip those. And I think your expectations are double digits for both of them. I don't think that would be out of the question. Do you?
No, not at all. Obviously, we both know that Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, a lot of their production is going to depend on game flow and situation because sacks themselves, especially in today's NFL, interceptions and sacks just continue to go down because the passing games are becoming more efficient. They're more quick strike. There are more spreads. There's more options. So the best way to get those sacks and those kind of that production is to have an offense that is at least somewhat formidable, at least average. So the other team is put in a position where they have to be aggressive and take those chances and put themselves in a spot where they could get sacked rather than like, oh, we're going to protect the football, protect the lead, and not move on. So that's the thing you got to worry about there with them is what's the Broncos offense going to look like? We still don't know. So much depends on the quarterback, which is almost a complete unknown for the Broncos this year right now. No, I think at least 8 sacks each. But if you want this team to be making the playoffs, I think both have to push 10. Probably, honestly, both of them have to average like 11.5. Because there's not. Go ahead.
And if you look at it, where's Malik Reed fit into this?
Yeah,
he led the team last year. So if one of them isn't quite up to speed, out of form, however you want to say it, Malik Reed might be the best number 3 option in the country. In the country, I'm so used to talking college football. In the NFL as well. So, let's not sleep on him because he led the team in sacks last year.
Yeah. No, he's also one that we have to get to because the Broncos he's on a contract season this year, I believe. So that's a big one for him. I just think he doesn't fit in it as well. And let's get to this. Somebody who does fit in, Moron, thank you very much with a very supportive $5 super over on YouTube, but also a very kind comment as well saying, I wish you guys had more support. This show blows the other Mile High Huddle shows out of the water. Keep up the good work, guys, and thank you. Well, Mo, this is a double-edged sword because I'm on 2 other shows. So what are you trying to say? No, I thank you very much for the kind words and the comments. We appreciate you a lot. And Chase coming in, all MHH is great. Yeah, I love that every show kind of has its own flavor. So and
it's not a competition.
No,
it's not. I've always said I don't have to be Coke. I can be Pepsi. That's coming from an Atlanta person. I can't say that too loud. But no one else has to fail for me to succeed. If we're succeeding and we're on the right trajectory, Mo, that's what I like. For a relatively fledgling show that we've got here, the trajectory of the show is something I think that Nick and I are both very happy with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see what this can grow into as the season gets closer and we start getting into the regular season. But I've been having a lot of fun. And hopefully also the Broncos edge rushers can have a lot of fun. So let's get back to Von Miller here real quick because again, like I've said 100 times, I really tried not to be biased on here. I put away the fan hat a long time ago to put on the analyst hat because I'm not here to run a fan page, right? We're not here to like the best cheers organizing there. I want to analyze this team and give you guys unbiased news. Von Miller I have a hard time with. So expectations.
Okay, I have a question when we start talking about expectations. So I think his second best year was 2018, 14.5 sacks. Mm-hmm. He played 15 games, started all 15 in 2019, but that number dropped to 8 and he was 30. Mm-hmm. Why did his numbers drop off so much in 2019?
There are multiple reasons here, just like anything, obviously. Sorry, guys, I never can answer things in a tweet because I have too much to say. But the sacks themselves historically tend to fluctuate a lot year to year. They're not super predictive.
Except his.
His have been consistent.
Except his. When you start looking in every, his numbers are crazy consistent. When you start looking at if he's played at least 10 games and basically he played 16 in all but one. 11 and a half, 18 and a half, 14, 11, 13 and a half, 10, 14 and a half, 8.
Yep.
So that 8 kind of stands out for a 30-year-old who then got injured. So playing, we think we're happy to have Von Miller back, but what Von Miller are we getting back? Because now he's 32.
31,
he'll
32.
He'll be 32, and his 30 we saw a pretty significant drop off in 2019 in his 30-year-old season. So what Von Miller are we getting back?
I will retort, and again, I'm very much pull for Von Miller on the field, but a big thing for that is his statistics outside of the sack numbers, his pressure rate, his quarterback hits, his pass rush win rate were all almost equal to his career norms, which to me means he should definitely resort back. It's just kind of a blip in the data. And as you like to say, small enough sample size, which Von Miller, I know it's multiple years, but it's still one player. You can prove anything. And historically speaking, larger sample
size. I've heard
size
that somewhere before.
Yeah. It's like you like to say, that's a good one. But looking at every single player ever, the sacks are not super predictive year to year. Obviously, good players will tend to stay in that upper range, whatnot. But the thing that is the most predictive and consistent is the pass rush win rate. Say that 10 times fast. And the pressures. And Von Miller was very high that season. So another issue is the secondary was not as good. Obviously, that was the Joe Flacco, Drew Lock rookie season, not having Bradley Chubb on the other side. I honestly can't even, was it Malik Reed as the other starter? No, it was Jeremiah Tauchu as the other starter across from Von Miller that season, which, he played admirably, but you did not have horses there to really
now you're getting double teams every time, no questions asked.
Exactly. So I'm not as worried about Von Miller's that blip season because of all the other data that surrounds him. But it's more that age number, right? Coming off the injury, the age, and Von Miller, he's not a power player, so to speak. He is very much a bend and quick twitch player. And those are traits that once you lose that edge, even if you go from 95 to 90 or 95 to 85, that's a big difference for how much that matters on the football field. So we'll see how Von does this year. I still expect a 10 sack season. He's still going to be an extremely good player, but is he going to be a top 5 edge rusher in the NFL this season? I don't know. He does have an amazing depth in secondary. Bradley Chubb should be as good as he's ever been this season. Those are all working for Von Miller. But is he going to be the straw that stirs the drink for this Broncos defense like he has been for almost his entire career? I don't know. I don't know just yet. I'm skeptical, and this might be the last year of Von Miller in Denver because I do not think he's going to take a team-friendly deal, especially if the Broncos are not a Super Bowl contender, which is, probably, unless Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater take crazy steps forward, probably not going to be a Super Bowl contender this year. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But man, I hope Von Miller can stick around. I know it's super rare to have players be a one-team guy for life. If Tom Brady and Peyton Manning can move on to other teams, then Von Miller can too. And just like you guys can be upset about Von Miller leaving, but Broncos probably don't win a Super Bowl, and Von Miller doesn't have the career he doesn't have if DeMarcus Ware doesn't leave longtime Dallas to come to Denver. It's just that's how the league works. But I'm hoping Von can stick around. I hope he has a big year, and I hope that he's in Denver for foreseeable future. But
so the Cliff Notes version of this was there's multiple reasons. It's a statistical anomaly. I'm more worried about his age and injury than the drop off in production.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly. Yep. 100%. That's what do you think? I know the Broncos, again, they did try to replace Von Miller this offseason. There's no way to look around it. They also looked at his future replacement. The Broncos, multiple reports, verified people saying the Broncos were looking to trade up to number 20 overall to go take Jalen Phillips. I think Jalen Phillips ends up going 18. And he's a totally different type of edge rusher than Von Miller, which maybe that's worth noting for Vic Fangio as well. But Broncos have been looking hard for that future replacement for Von Miller. And the end is nigh, unfortunately.
Here's the other one that you hear me say a lot is old and expensive is no way to be, right?
Yeah.
So when you're sitting on an $18 million contract, you're coming off an injury, you had half the sacks the year before that, they're going to look to replace you. So now it's up to him. Do you want to keep making $20 million for a 1-year contract, or maybe even 12 or 13 to go to a contender as a free agent? So it's in his hands, and he's going to be motivated. That it's almost over for me is creeping into the back of his mind big time. So I've got to work harder and be stronger and faster than I've ever been in my whole life. And I've got to prove anybody that's made it at this level has a competitive drive that is way beyond what normal people have. So he's got that fire burning in him in order to prove that he's still who he is. And he's got maybe 1 or 2 more years, maybe 3, playing to 33, 34 to prove that. And who should be the recipient of the best of those years? It should be this year. Should be. Yeah. It should be this year. This should be the best season he's got for the rest of his career. That's if we look back, this should be his best season. That's what I'm hoping for.
Me too. But we'll see what happens. Broncos have been looking to move on. But the big guy who really needs to step forward, and I think it's probably unfair to put Von Miller level expectations on him, because Von Miller, in my book, especially if he can close out and have another 3 to 4 seasons, should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Especially with, he had a Super Bowl winning defining season as well. That whole playoff run, he was incredible. Bradley Chubb. But before we get into Bradley Chubb, Corey Johnson coming in here with an interesting question. How important, when trying to get sacks, is alternating between man zone and blitz in order to be less predictable in coverage? Is our team better equipped to do that this year, also having leads? So you can blitz either man and zone, right? That Broncos defense in 98-99 was renowned for their zone blitzing. That was something that the league hadn't seen as much of. And I know the Steelers also went under Dick LeBeau, a lot of zone blitzing that made that defense pretty formidable. Historically speaking, Vic Fangio does not like to blitz. He likes to make it harder on the quarterback, create less space down the field. And if he could win pass rush wise with 3 guys, I think he would. Typically he does use 4, but it is important to be able to do that sometimes. And also depends on your personnel. Like the Broncos, once they plugged in Alexander Johnson, who is 6'5", 245 pounds, and he's big and long, but he's not the most fleet of foot. What's the best usage for that guy? Dropping him in space to cover a tight end, or sending him up the A gap? They're sending him on blitzes. So Broncos, but the defense in general should be better suited to get sacks this year, because the secondary isn't a sieve, right? Last year they had no cornerbacks left.
Yeah, and the coverage is going to help for sure is one. And then, thinking on this question, we're talking about schemes. For me, situational sacks can be scheme-based. That's where you're going to get those when you talk about blitzes. Like, okay, we're going to disguise a corner blitz, and the corner's going to come in and get a sack. But your corner's not going to lead your team in sacks. Mm-hmm. So the consistency that you need is still going to come from good players. It's still going to be coming from plus players. And the Broncos have at least 3 of them, maybe 4 if we count Draymond Jones. If he takes that step forward, because his contract year is coming up too. Yeah. He's got 2 more years of control with a base salary right now of $875,000. 6 sacks from a 3-4 end. That's really good. The 3-4 defensive line is a mother of a position. Your job is basically just to grab 2 blockers and let the linebackers do all the work. Well, get all the glory. You're doing all the work. Yeah. So 6 sacks from a 3-4 end is big time. Yep. So when you look at schemes, you can scheme your way into sacks from different areas with blitzes, but the bulk of the sacks still comes from pass rushers who know how to beat their man.
Yep. Nope. Absolutely. You are correct there. Yeah, it's hopefully it'll work out that way. And there is some synergy between the interior defensive line and edge. And guys, I see some questions about the interior defensive line. We're already at 30 minutes. Let's do the interior defensive line on Thursday. We'll really get into that and talk some Draymond Jones, Shelby Harris, Mike Purcell, McTelvin Ajim, et cetera, et cetera. Base case coming in here saying off-topic question about college quarterbacks. Thoughts on Matt Corral, Carson Strong, and Malik Willis for the 2022 quarterback class. Matt Corral, I watched him somewhat watching Elijah Moore. He does have some talent. I think he has some tools. I'm not sure if they're like overwhelming tools. Like I think he has less in his toolkit than any of the top 4 drafted quarterbacks last season. Granted, last season was a pretty incredible quarterback class overall. I mean, if you have, 5 quarterbacks going in the top 15, that's an incredible class. Carson Strong, I like Carson Strong's arm. I think if you have a quarterback who is purely pocket based in today's NFL, you're going to be limited no matter what. And Carson Strong, he is he looks like a quarterback that would have gone pretty early in the 90s. I think he'll still go. He's still got a chance to be a first-round quarterback. I mean, hell, Mac Jones did, and he's not fleet of foot at all. So there's still a niche for him, but it's not for me. You know how like some guys are like, oh man, I really love blondes and brunettes. I'm not attracted to redheads. That's how I feel about pocket quarterbacks. They're just not for me. Maybe there's somebody else's cup of tea. I'm never going to fall in love with another pocket quarterback.
Yeah, and I don't have that problem. See, I don't care polka dot or whatnot. I always said I'll prove it because Mystique is hot and she's blue. I just don't care. Hot is hot. So to me, there's more than one way to skin a cat. You talk about mobile quarterbacks have done it. Going back through the years, John Elway, Steve Young, guys who can't move a lick have done it. Peyton Manning's, he couldn't move at all. Tom Brady doesn't move a ton. Ben Roethlisberger's hard to sack. There's more than one way to skin a cat. So for me, that's why I never really liked the whole going back through the recruiting process, pro style, dual threat, all this nonsense. I mean, quarterbacks, you still got to be able to play quarterback. The systems are so much different in the NFL that I do get that a little bit. And base case, I haven't scouted these guys much at all. So I'm going to let him go on. I'm going to let Nick handle what he's seen so far. I'll start doing some homework because these questions are starting to pop up more and more often that I don't think I'm going to be able to wait until the season starts. So I'll start doing some homework on these guys this week, and we'll be able to talk quarterbacks more extensively next week. But Nick's watched these guys a lot more than I have. But I don't mind. If a kid can play quarterback, he can play, because for me, it's all about getting the ball away quickly, accurately, and good decision-making. And then do you have that enough factor that we talk about? Do you have enough arm? Do you have enough size? Do you have enough mobility, or some combination thereof? But I'm not sold or against any one way. Now, obviously, if you can have the physical features of Cam Newton in Peyton Manning's brain, that's your quarterback. That's who you want. Those guys don't come around very often,
if ever. I guess I will push back just a little bit, just for the sake of it's First Take on ESPN. But the thing for me about the quarterback factor as far as athleticism, they don't have to be out there being Michael Vick, but they have to have enough athleticism to function independently of the offensive line. You cannot have to have an above average offensive line to have your offense function, because it's just too hard to field that type of offensive line. And I know there's Peyton Manning's, there's Tom Brady's, but you're talking about like the S tier of players who have ever existed brain wise. After seeing what the Broncos function when they had probably close to an average offensive line, maybe slightly below average, but the year with Joe Flacco, where he can't function at all. He cannot step up in the pocket. He cannot escape at all. You're limiting yourself on broken plays, big plays. I need to have at least some level of functional athleticism from the quarterback position for a quarterback coming in, if I'm going to take them early in the draft. I'm not saying
I've said this before, and I'll say it again because this is a good time, because the MLB draft. But if you go back and look at the last 5 years, the evolution of the quarterback position to more of the spread running, I think, is very well linked to the Major League Baseball draft. If you look at the draft, where are all the 6'5" big arm quarterbacks? It's like, oh, they've been phased out of football. No, they haven't. They have not. A 6'5" quarterback that can throw it 80 yards has a place in the NFL all the time. They're playing baseball now. Yeah. You go look, they're all playing. There's 13-man rotations now, pitching staffs. What's 13 times 30? Almost 450 jobs in Major League Baseball, playing a pitcher, and there's 30 starting quarterbacks in the NFL, and you're getting paid as much to be a middle reliever as you are an average quarterback in the NFL, and your quality of life is better. So baseball is robbing the pocket passers from the NFL, and I'll take that one to my grave.
For sure. No, it's definitely something. Also, they're not as stringent on their height parameters anymore. I mean, you look at 10, 15 years ago, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray. Yeah, these smaller quarterbacks.
Yeah, Doug Flutie was a unicorn, and he didn't get a chance. He had to go to the CFL, to play.
Exactly. So the game has changed a little bit there. But again, I need, for a baseline, we're talking, I'm not completely out on them, but for first round, top 10, quarterback's got to have some functional athleticism in today's league, because it's way too hard to have a average offensive line year after year. So I need a quarterback who can function somewhat independently of the offensive line. I know, pie in the sky, but
and for me, Nick, part of that athleticism is just footwork. You have to have great feet to play quarterback, period. So, if you can be Peyton Manning, he kind of shuffles along, but he avoids the rush just with a quick shuffle, and having the poise and the vision, he's one of those guys that has at least 180 degrees of vision, and then a set of eyes in the back of his head, that with good feet, he's able, and a quick release, he's able to avoid a lot of that stuff. So that's the type of, we mentioned balance, we mentioned those kind of things that can't be measured, but you can tell when someone's got them. And that's athleticism that you don't necessarily get credit for because it can't be measured. But, when we talk about Peyton Manning and not being mobile, he's not fast, he's not quick, but he's got great feet and good awareness. And if you can do that as a quarterback, you can be a good quarterback.
Yeah, and also probably the best pre-snap maestro that's ever played the game. But Lonnie coming in, thank you for the stars earlier. Originally from Cheyenne, now from Vegas. With the average quarterback play this year, this defense can make us super. Well, Broncos did it in 2015 with bad quarterback play. Love Peyton, but let's call a spade a spade. He was bad in 2015. So anything can happen. Now, granted, they call that no-fly zone defense in 2015 all-time. And all-time means that it happens once ever, right? It's all-time defense for the Broncos. So to expect 2015 again is probably not realistic, but I think they can be a top 5 defense this year. They can be healthy, and as long as the quarterback play isn't bottom 3 in the NFL this season, that should be enough to make.
And Nick, that's what I was going to say. Average quarterback play, let's be honest.
That's a big step.
It's a significant leap forward.
Yes. Yep.
So that means your whole offense got significantly better if you can just get to average. Yep. So getting to average is not necessarily, it was average. Well, average isn't a bad thing right now. And I agree with you. You get average quarterback play with that offense and this defense, this is going to be a fun team to watch.
Yeah, and I heard something, I don't remember which football player it was. It was a former football player, but they were talking about improving the quarterback position. And they said something like going from a C-level quarterback to a B-level quarterback is a bigger significant change for your team's performance than going from an F-level tackle to an A-level tackle. Like that's just even an incremental improvement at the quarterback position has a much bigger effect than going from worst to first at a different position.
It's about another $10 million on your salary cap too.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it was in reference to the Rams going from Jared Goff to Matt Stafford, just saying like that incremental change has bigger grand sweeping changes than almost switching any other position. So that's just, God, guys, you've heard it all off season from us. The quarterback position, it's a have or have not league there. So average though, we'll take it. I will take it. Please, God, please give me average quarterback. And that's just because I want to see what this offense, these offensive weapons can do.
We've said before, this is the greatest team game in sports, period. At every other sport that we love to watch, an individual can basically take it over. And, except for, Lawrence Taylor or somebody on defense, that doesn't happen in football. And there's so much synergy and connection. We're talking edge rushers. Well, the edge rushers aren't going to do anything unless the defensive aren't going to be able to get to the quarterback if the secondary is a C. Well, now flip that, around and take another look. As the edge rushers are getting pressure, now the secondary gets better. As the quarterback play gets better, the running game gets better, the intermediate, short, and long passing gets better, everything. So taking that F level play quarterback, if you're bottom third, bottom 3, that's probably an F, wouldn't you think? Yeah. And moving it up to even a C at quarterback is going to have sweeping ramifications for this offense. And then in turn, it's going to help the defense. So there's so much riding on this quarterback play that I think it should take a step forward this year. I don't have much doubt that it will take a step forward this year.
It kind of has to, right? It would be hard for them to play much worse at that position. And you'd expect Drew Lock to take steps forward this year just by regression to the mean. Also, he was the worst quarterback in football last year under pressure. And talking about sacks earlier being variant year to year, that's a stat that, historically speaking, fluctuates wildly. There are some quarterbacks that'll stay in their like general area, but like going from an outlier, like by far the worst quarterback under pressure last year, that should have some positive regression. Also, Justin Herbert, the best quarterback last year under pressure, should see some regression to the mean that way. So hopefully we'll have some more norms going on there. Let's get to Bradley Chubb though, and I'm excited to see Bradley Chubb. I feel like he's a little bit underrated by the Broncos fan base. People, again, I kind of hinted at it earlier. People are expecting Von Miller, which is first ballot Hall of Fame caliber edge rusher, number 2 overall pick, and was out of the gate amazing. And Bradley Chubb has been very, very good. He just isn't arguably the best edge rusher in the NFL good. Top 15, yes. Maybe top 10 at some point in his career. Very, very much so, yes. But for the 5th overall pick for a position of value like edge rusher, that's really hard to find. I think he's been good for his value. Obviously, probably would have rather had Josh Allen in hindsight, but at least it wasn't a bust pick because Bradley Chubb's still very good, and I think he's still on a all-pro path in his career, and he's going to get paid one way or another because production's there. He's a good pass rusher. He can play in multiple fronts. Good frame, still ascending, and also a business-like work ethic off the field. So I'm really excited to see what Bradley Chubb can do this year, and just please God, stay healthy.
Well, and you've heard me say this before when someone says, oh, he's overrated or he's a bust. I'm like, well, if he's overrated, what do you rate him? Were you expecting him to be the next Von Miller? Because that's not realistic.
No. Or,
well, he's a bust. He was a 5th overall pick. Well, what do you expect? He made the Pro Bowl in his 3rd season. That's pretty good. You got a Pro Bowl edge rusher and you got a former, a Von Miller coming back. This guy is a Pro Bowler in his 3rd season.
Yeah, honestly, I would say his 2nd season because his sophomore year he got robbed. He only played like 3 games. Well,
there's a saying in an MLB. It says you usually get elected to the All-Star game the year after you deserve it, and I think that translates to other teams as well. Like if you're one of those multi-year guys, your last year that you go to the All-Star game, Pro Bowl, whatever, you probably didn't deserve it, but you probably deserved it a year before that as you helped build your name. So that makes sense to me because I was looking through some historical running backs yesterday, and this guy had 1,500 yards and didn't make it. And then in his last season, his 4th straight, he had 800 yards and made it. I'm like, okay, that's that old saying. You usually get it the year after you deserve it. So that makes sense. But
that tends to be
certainly, we talked about this. Would you have rather had this guy at quarterback? But, when you've got a Pro Bowl, when you get a Pro Bowler with that pick, it's a little hard to complain.
Yeah, no, he's very good this year. And let's get to Clayton real quick. With our defense, do you guys think a 2.0 no-fly zone again? Do you think it'll be a no-fly zone again this year? On paper, I think the Broncos secondary is better talent-wise, depth-wise. The big thing about that in 2015 no-fly zone was they had incredible pass rush in front of them, which made everything different. I mean, you're talking about 4 deep at the edge rush position with Shaquille Barrett, who we've seen as incredible. Shane Ray before he injured his wrist, who is really good. DeMarcus Ware, Von Miller at his absolute peak, which was probably the 2nd most valuable defensive player in football at his peak, only behind J.J. Watt, has absurd peak seasons. He honestly, it's unfortunate for Von Miller that he played the same time as J.J. Watt because J.J. Watt was doing stuff that you hadn't seen since Reggie White out there. But that's a hard one for me. Also another big thing is the style of defense the Broncos ran back then to now. They're running this Vic Fangio defense, which again, best in the NFL right now, scheme wise, limits big plays, does a lot of stuff to confuse quarterbacks, showing too high before the snap, then dropping one of the safeties. So it limits what quarterbacks can do pre-snap wise. But that no-fly zone in 2015, they had 3 top 20 man corners, and they could play simple stupid out there and let the pass rush get after it. And the safety is not as good then. The linebackers are a little bit better than. I think people probably overrate Marshall and Trevathan that year compared to Alexander Johnson and Josie Jewell this year. But I think if you could put 3 top 10 man corners on the defense right now and just play straight up, cover 2 man the whole time and your cornerbacks are good enough, that'd be incredible. That limits so much. It's really hard to run that kind of defense consistently in the NFL. It leaves you vulnerable to some big plays as well. So hopefully you're getting what I'm saying here, nuanced wise. The scheme wise and the type of cornerbacks the Broncos had made them more valuable. They could have more of an impact and limit the safeties and linebacker influence, where that's not the case in Vic Fangio's defense. It's going to take the entirety of the back 7 working holistically together for it to function. So I think that the secondary here is maybe more depth, more talent, especially Justin Simmons, but the style of defense lended itself where cornerbacks could cover up more of that, the back 7 in that 2015 defense.
So to sum up, I'll do this again. To put it in a tweet, the personnel was probably a little bit better back then, and they took more chances. So, they're probably going to be more big plays, but the scoring could be limited on this one because you got to grind it out and earn it now. You've it might not be quite as flashy, but the defense could be just as effective. Yep,
absolutely. So we'll see. A lot of it's going to depend on what that pass rush can look like this season. So we need, I know you guys are chomping at the bit. Can Draymond Jones turn into another 6 sack guy? Can McTelvin Ajim take a step forward? Can they stay healthy? Et cetera, et cetera. Super sticker coming in here. Broncos 17-0 with a $20 super sticker. I'm going to imagine it's a picture of Von Miller and Bradley Chubb back-to-back, arms crossed, the pre-graphic there. Because I can't pull it up on Facebook. But thank you very much, Broncos 17-0, for the very generous super chat. We appreciate you coming in here.
Yeah, all the time. Yes. we don't forget. We appreciate your continued support for sure.
Mm-hmm. Chase saying, I like our defense, but hard to put them over Washington football team or Tampa yet. I agree with you there. Washington football team probably has the best front 7 in football this year. Chase Young, year 2, Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen. I'm probably forgetting some more names. They're a lot of fun. They're very talented. And Tampa Bay, we saw what they did last year. Maybe not the edge rushers the Broncos have, but they have good depth in the secondary as well. Let's get to it, though. Bradley Chubb, I think a lot of people look at the sacks last year and think, oh, man, Bradley Chubb, Malik Reed. Malik Reed had more sacks. He's better. But that doesn't tell the entire story. The sacks are a statistic that are very situational. They can lie, and a lot of it depends on what's going on scheme-wise, what other teams are doing. And I found this infographic back in February, I think. But it is and you guys let me know if it's too small. I can zoom in a little bit.
You'll need to zoom in.
It's pretty small.
Zoom in a bit.
But so we have Von Miller and Bradley Chubb and Malik Reed, and on the y-axis here, sorry guys, we're doing some math here, it's pass rush win rate, and on the x-axis, it's double team rate. And I highlighted Bradley Chubb and Malik Reed here to show you guys the difference here. So while Malik Reed had more sacks last year, a lot of that was because of what opposing teams are doing. And on the left here, we got Malik Reed, bottom left, lower left quadrant, unfortunately, which puts him at the lower rate of double team win rate and pass rush win rate. And then Bradley Chubb up here, one of the top 6 pass rushers last year in terms of how many times he was double teamed and how many times he won. If you compare those together, then the pass rushers he's paired with, J.J. Watt in his own stratosphere. A lot of people are talking about who's Broncos going to be the best edge rushing duo this year. I'll probably go the Arizona Cardinals. I know Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt have health concerns, but it's still incredible. And I think Chandler Jones has been one of the most underrated edge rushers in football in his career. Joey Bosa, Myles Garrett, Chase Young, Brandon Graham, Bradley Chubb. So Bradley Chubb, while he is maybe not getting the sacks that Malik Reed had last year, the straw, as I like to say, the straw that stirs the drink for this defense.
Yeah, and what that should do is now let's put Von Miller out there and see where that happens. That win rate should go up for both of them. And then the double team should come down for Bradley Chubb because you can't double team both of them. So the win rate, that you're going to get more single coverage, you're going to get less double teams, you're going to get more win rate. Those are all good things, and that's why it's nice to have a partner in crime out there. So, looking again, we asked, what position are we most excited to watch? Outside linebackers for me. That's the one I'm most excited. I grew up in the '80s when outside linebackers were cool. Then in the '90s where chicks dig the long ball commercials came out. Well, we dug the sacks in the '80s. Lawrence Taylor made the outside linebacker position, a glamour position in the '80s. So I'm looking forward to watching those two play this year.
Yeah, shout out to Derek Thomas as well. I know he's a Chief.
May he rest in peace. Speaking of which, I want to send condolences to the Denver Broncos family out there with Alex Gibbs passing. Innovator. We've talked about what he did for the Broncos a lot. He came to Georgia, coached the Falcons and the Georgia Bulldogs. So we got to be exposed to him down here. So that was a big loss to the football community.
Yep, that's an unfortunate loss. If Mike Shanahan is the king of running backs don't matter, Alex Gibbs has got to be the prince because we're getting that offensive line in there, and we're just going to plug running backs as long as the offensive line functions, and running backs will get what's blocked for him. So, the Broncos don't have the history they do without him, so it's a loss. I don't think he's in the Ring of Fame, but if there any assistant coach should be, him and Wade Phillips have very much a career to have earned it. Jeremy coming in here saying late. Sorry, Jeremy, how dare you? It's okay. Do you think Von takes a team deal if Chubb emerges or Rodgers gets traded? I think if the Broncos get Rodgers, you could see Von Miller taking a team deal because I don't think he'd, after going through the last 5 years of what do they call it? The world of suck or the pit of misery the Broncos have been in. I don't think he'd want to leave that. Also, you know how Von Miller is when things are good. He's dancing around having a good time. So if Rodgers gets traded, I think Von's more likely to take a team deal to stick around. It's not going to be a crazy team deal, but I think you can shave off, maybe 5%, 10% of what he'd get on the open market. And especially then, because also if Rodgers is here and the Broncos are good, sponsorship money comes in. You get that renewal of the Old Spice commercial with him. Maybe he'll get a bit on the Allstate with Aaron Rodgers. Him and Aaron Rodgers teaming up against Patrick Mahomes. That'd be very fun. And if Chubb emerges, that's a maybe. But like Chubb can emerge. I would say Chubb has already emerged. And that still doesn't mean the team's going to be good, because edge rusher, second most valuable position in football, doesn't mean much if you don't have a quarterback.
Well, and when we start talking, what does a team deal mean for a guy that's entering his 33rd-year-old season, coming off an injury, and is at $18 million? Yeah. Is there any way he gets more than 10? I mean, that's the good news, bad news. If he plays his way into another contract around that means he had a monster season this year. So would you take that trade-off? It's like, okay, I want Von Miller to be at his best and we might lose him in 2022, or I want to see a lesser Von Miller. I'd rather see Von Miller have a monster year. One, for the Broncos, but two, I root for players. I want him to have his biggest season. And if you lose him because someone wants to give him $20 million, so be it. Thanks, Von. You earned it this year, and you proved to everyone that you're back from injury and still Von Miller. So I have a hard time seeing him getting the same money that he's on, even for a one-year deal. So what is a team-friendly deal? Because I think he's gonna get a pay cut in his next contract regardless. Yeah,
it really depends on what the season looks like for him. Mm-hmm. But that would be it'd be ideal to bring back Von, and that's just because I am biased. We got Matt with a long comment here. Thank you very much, Matt, over on Facebook. If you guys are joining us on Facebook today, please remember to click the thumbs up, the heart react. I see we got only 2 hearts right now from Gary Leeds Palmer and Richard Martin. So what's the matter, guys? You don't love us? That hurts. That hurts a lot. And also all the likes as well. So go ahead and do that if you're joining us on Facebook today. Matt, though, if we look at the expectations of where Chubb should be based on projections, he's not proved to be that elite rusher he was initially thought to be. What the infographic states is Chubb is dependent on another quality rusher to lighten the load for him to be more effective. He's stuck in the great category where he was projected to be elite. And I think he's right in between great and elite, personally, and he still can become elite. But again, if your expectation is Von Miller, I think you're missing the mark there. That's not a fair benchmark for him, because Von Miller is probably a first ballot Hall of Famer, and that's a rarity even for a top 5 pick. Right? Like you want all pro for Bradley Chubb. And I say he's on that way. And also you're going to see it with Bradley Chubb this upcoming cycle, or 2 seasons, where he's going to get paid. He's going to get paid like an elite rusher. So be prepared for that.
No, and I say third season, coming off an injury, 24 years old, making the Pro Bowl. I'm happy. Yep. Can he get better? But looking at that, 5th overall pick.
Where did Dante Fowler go?
He might get paid like he's elite. Yeah. Coming off he's at 12. I think he's in 2022. He's at 12.7. You're going to swap that money that Von Miller's on at 18 right now, because he's going to get paid like he's elite, especially if he has that deal. So elite, the phrase we say, I have a lot of phrases we use a lot, and one of them is I don't argue levels of elite. Bradley Chubb's really, really good, and that infographic showed it. He was winning up here in that top right. The top right's as far as you can get, and he was up there. Yep. By himself almost. JJ Watt didn't count. Yeah, we're talking about an all-timer. I mean, that's not fair. Yep. Is he worth the number 5 pick? And if he was projected to be what Watt is, he would have gone number 1, not number 5. So I think you got to be pretty happy with where Bradley Chubb is personally.
Yep, exactly. And we have Matt coming in here saying he was projected to be better than Myles Garrett and Von Miller coming out of North Carolina State. Matt, I don't know where you're getting from information, but it's not from me, because I would have never lied to you like that. If, like as Scott just said, if he was projected to be that same type of player, guess where he was going? Number 1 overall. Myles Garrett went number 1.
Myles Garrett was the number 1 defensive end in high school. I did a video on him. He was number 1, 5 stars defensive end coming out of high school, number 1 overall pick. Myles Garrett was a different beast.
Yep.
So, the one that I think of projected to be and hasn't in that level is Jadeveon Clowney.
Yep.
Jadeveon Clowney is the best defensive end I ever saw, period.
Yep.
And he hasn't lived up to those expectations. Now that's a guy, number 1 overall, number 1 player in the country coming out of high school, number 1 overall, freak of nature as an athlete, and he hasn't put it all together, So that would be, but a number 5 overall pick, Pro Bowler in his 3rd year, I think he's on the right path.
Yep. And he said, "I'll shoot me the link." Go ahead and do that. But whoever said Bradley Chubb was better,
and I won't know who not to listen to.
Yeah, God. Yeah, he's not on the same level as Myles Garrett coming out. Myles Garrett's probably the most valuable defensive player in football right now, given his age and what I mean. If I was a betting man, he'd be my pick to win Defensive Player of the Year this year because I think you'll probably get better value than Aaron Donald. But he's a freak, and the other guy who I would put above Chubb coming out is Chase Young, and you're talking about a guy who went number 2 overall. So he's a tier under those guys that went like top 3. But that's still, there's a lot of value there to have him.
If Chubb was coming out in this draft, he might have gone number 4 to the Falcons. So
I think he would have.
That's probably where he would have gone.
Yep.
Because the quarterbacks went 1, 2, 3, and it's tough to beat a franchise quarterback. Those are usually the number 1s, but I think the next highest picked player by position is probably defensive end. I'd have to look it up, but it's quarterback easily number 1, and then after that, but he would have gone number 4. And what would my expectations have been if I got a rookie season where he had 12 sacks? Good.
Hell yeah,
that's a hit. We call that a hit in the business.
Yeah, that's at least a triple.
Yeah.
And I got a question for you, just a hypothetical here, no reason, just came to my head. What would you rather have? What brings you more value? A perennial Pro Bowl All-Pro edge rusher or a Hall of Fame guard?
I think it's easy. That's easy. And it goes back to one of the first times I was talking to a high school football player 20 years ago. And I said, which do you like playing, offense or defense better? And he says, I like playing defense. He said, why? He says, because I can end the play. If I do my job, I can end the play. So when you've got an edge rusher, we mentioned about taking over a game. Well, you can't take over the whole game, but an edge rusher that's on fire can basically end the offense. Just wipe out the offense. Now your offense still has to do something, so you can't quite take over the game. But the edge rusher, I'd much rather have the Pro Bowl edge rusher there
than a Hall of Fame guard.
Absolutely.
Eat your hearts out, Quentin Nelson, screamers.
Sorry, but Nate Newton, those guys. But I'd rather have DeMarcus Ware than Nate Newton.
Yep.
Of course, DeMarcus Ware is probably going to the Hall of Fame, but looking back at those Cowboys teams, but I can all those great teams. You can probably every great team you can probably name a defensive end. You probably can't name the guard.
Yep.
A defensive end can end a play on his own. The guard is part of the system.
Yep. Offensive lines are much more about the weakest link.
The collective. It's about the collective.
Yep. Exactly. So it will be really interesting. And I've had people, still screaming at me about Quentin Nelson because I was saying I wouldn't take Quentin Nelson in the top 5 just because there's no guarantee for him to be a Hall of Fame, and he'd have to be a Hall of Famer to be worth a top 5 pick as a guard. And he looks like he's on that path.
It's like tight ends. Kyle Pitts was the highest tight end that's ever been taken. What guard has ever been taken that high? Any?
Quentin Nelson. That's the only. I guess you could say Robert Gallery, but he was drafted to be a tackle.
And having a tackle that moved to guard just means you missed your evaluation. It's like you don't draft those guys that high to put them at guard. You draft them to put them at tackle, and then crap, he's not good enough to play tackle. I missed. Maybe he can play guard, which goes back to the whole argument. If I can get a guy to play tackle, the tackle is more valuable than the guard. The guard is. I'd almost rather have the big time center than the guard. When we talk about guys you remember and Hall of Famers, I can't think of them off the top of my head right now, but I can name more centers than I can guards through the ages.
Yep. And answering Chase here is, would you say it's easier to find a serviceable guard versus an edge rusher? Yes. Right. Like close. It's really like the difference between a difference maker at guard and edge rusher. It's night and day. Matt, send us the link.
There are literally thousands of 6'3", 300-pounders that can move. There are not nearly as many 6'3" to 6'6", 250-plus pounders that are quick twitch guys.
Yep.
Just it's not even close. Guards are for me, and going back to referencing Alex Gibbs, who we've talked about. the interior line is as much about the system as it is the player. It just is. Now, finding those guys that are 6'6", 300 plus that can move like power forwards at tackle, those are real hard to find. But interior linemen, they're dime a dozen. They just are.
And we got not much time left. The Broncos, we talked a lot of time. We got into some quarterback talk here, not even about the Broncos, just in general, and the position in general, and which is a lot of fun. But Malik Reed, I'm a big fan of Malik Reed. I don't think the Broncos, though, are a fan enough to pay him what he's looking for. I've heard some rumblings from his agent that Malik Reed's looking for $14 million a year, $12 to $14 million a year. I think he's going to get that because, again, teams are desperate for edge rushers, and he had a good sack season last year. But I do not think that he's going to get that from the Broncos. Now, what makes me say that? Broncos, again, it's the same thing with Von Miller looking to replace him. They had Malik Reed last year. They got a full season of seeing what a future of Bradley Chubb and Malik Reed could look like. What do the Broncos do? They go out. They try to sign Leonard Floyd to a big multi-year deal. Doesn't work out because he gets a big deal from the Rams, but, that's number one. Number two, again, they tried to trade up for a Jalen Phillips, which would have cost the Broncos probably their first-round pick this year. So what does that say to me? They say, Malik Reed, we like you. Thank you for being on here, undrafted free agent. Another hit for the Broncos, finding a productive undrafted free agent at edge rusher. Extremely rare.
I just looked at his contract. I didn't even realize he was a free agent. That's a home run.
Yes, it is. Broncos, again, I think this fan base, because we're so close to the situation, they found all-pro undrafted free agent Chris Harris Jr. is an undrafted free agent. That's extremely rare. Shaquille Barrett, undrafted free agent, another extremely rare thing. That's I think Malik Reed, though, was very good last year. They're going to get value out of him this year. I do not think they are going to go out there and pay him a big contract this year, though, after his contract expires.
So, yeah, that's, kudos to the scouting department there. And do they do supplemental picks? I don't think so. Do they? What do you get if you lose a free agent, or is that just baseball?
It's compensatory.
Okay.
The compensatory
at the end, yeah, the fifth and sixth, the comp picks. That's right. Yep.
From the third round on, they have compensatory picks. But it's a weird formula where you cannot pay another guy a similar contract, another free agent that was not released. We could have a whole episode on the intricacies of the compensatory pick. But if they let him walk and the Broncos do not pay a free agent whose contract expired an equivalent contract, then they should get a comp pick back. And what does that mean for next year? Are there going to be a bunch more free agents or teams looking to spend because the cap should be bouncing back? We'll see what the ramifications of this past year are, but that's definitely something you could look out for there. And we got Mo Ron saying, Malik Reed, see ya. Maybe you can get that contract back for him. Good job, guys. From Lonnie. Thank you very much. Broncos for breakfast. There's that hashtag B4B. CC's in the house. Good to see you. Morning, Broncos country. Hope you all doing great. Trevor's coming in as well. Morning, fellas. Good to see you, Trevor. And here we go. CC coming in about Malik Reed saying, love the guy and he deserves a bag for grinding and working his behind off to beat the odds from UDFA to be a really productive player. I'll be happy for him, but if he's wanting that type of money, see ya. Greg saying, great breakfast talk, fellas. Thank you very much. And Matt still coming here. Matt, thank you so much for the comments here. We also have to remember the draft class was riddled with quarterbacks, Baker, Darnold, Rosen. We see Baker, Barkley, Darnold, Ward go before him based on quarterback inflation alone. They'd go before an edge. Barkley looked to be a generational talent. Ward is a head scratcher there. Ward has been really good. The issue is for him is health. And I think obviously the Browns, if they could redo it, I think they'd probably go with Chubb to have pair Myles Garrett, Bradley Chubb would be incredible. But that's the conversation, right? Like quarterback, you never know if they're going to hit or not, but you got to hit them. And man, this one bet person is really bothering me. I got to block them again. So we're already at an hour. We do have to talk, though, the Broncos' depth at the edge rusher position, and I'll just name some guys. If anything jumps out to you, that's totally fine. We don't have to talk about it too much, but you got Derek Tuska. I think either he was Mr. Irrelevant or close to it 2 years ago. Jonathan Cooper, Broncos just took him in the 7th round. The Broncos also brought in Andre Mintz, a college free agent this year, and Baron Browning, also a dark horse for that edge rusher position. But nobody here really jumps out to me besides Baron Browning as a guy who could potentially be a long-term viable option to edge rusher. Now, you have to have depth, and not every single player you have on your roster is going to end up being a great player. You have to have those bottom-of-the-roster guys. But the way this roster is set up, Malik Reed, Von Miller, free agency end of the year, Bradley Chubb injury, this is a position that's primed for the Broncos to use number 1 overall next year. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's the direction they go, depending on how the draft falls, who's available, the quarterback position, et cetera, et cetera.
Let's keep an eye on Jonathan Cooper. Watched him a bit at Senior Bowl. Very, very good being able to get him undrafted. A little undersized, so that outside linebacker position didn't have a great measurables for, compared to his production. So that's a guy I think that you can keep an eye on for depth. I think that's another good pickup.
Yeah, Jonathan Cooper went in the 7th round. I think he fell because he also has a heart condition, which he just had to have surgery on again. He should be able to play with it, but again, that's one of those things where teams are like, well, it's an unknown variable. What does it mean long term? I'm not taking him in the 5th round. I'll wait until the 7th for that reason. That's where he fell. But he's definitely one. I'm honestly hoping the Broncos this year, because he had that heart surgery again, maybe they can free up an extra roster spot and put him on the IR for the year, give him a redshirt season as a 7th round pick, and then see what you can get a year beyond. I think that's, it's kind of cheating. It's kind of like keeping a baseball player in AAA for a year to get that extra year of control. It's more about
bring them up until the middle of June.
Yep, even though they're killing it in AAA. But what are your thoughts here? Overall edge rushing position, final parting thoughts as how the Broncos should be this year for that position and going forward, how it stacks up.
Well, I mean, we can talk about depth in the guys, but they're only going to go as far as Von Miller and Bradley Chubb and Malik Reed as a potential, spell in the other two. But Von Miller and Bradley Chubb obviously are the keys. There's no one else in the stratosphere of those guys. So get the production, get the health. That's going to be how good your defense is going to be. And that's a pretty exciting option because those two guys are really good.
Yep, absolutely. Well, guys, that's going to have to do it for this show today. I said we were going to go short, and we went 6 minutes over. Probably going to be 10 minutes over by the time we read it out. But that's been Broncos for Breakfast. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll be back again at 8 o'clock Mountain Time on Thursday to talk some Broncos interior defensive line. Also, if there's any topics from today that you want us to get farther into, bring them up in the comment section, because you guys, while we do have a general theme on the show, you guys really dictate the direction of the show. So keep up the comments. We appreciate it. Follow Scott and I both on Twitter. Scott at Scout Kennedy and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle and at Huddle Up Pod. Thank you. 21 Facebook likes and heart reacts. We appreciate Michael coming and adding us another heart. Michael Ronquillo, friend of the pod, always super generous with his comments on Twitter as well. We appreciate you. But while you guys are over on Facebook, dropping the heart or the like, you can also join us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Also, just to tease Scott, because I see it here, go to huddleuppod.com to get your swag on. Don't pay the iron price for it. Go and make sure you pay us for it, but get your swag on, as Chad likes to say, with the SCHWAG. YouTube, please subscribe, like, and share. Doing so keeps the lights on in here. It's the number one thing you can do outside of super chats to help us, continue to bring you this product. And if you enjoy it, make sure you share it out to tell your Broncos friends to listen to it as well. Or Chiefs fans as well. I mean, Falcons fans. It doesn't matter. We'll take all. We'll take all except the Raiders. We don't need them. I don't think they have computers in prison. So have to get the Raiders dig in there. Sorry, that's lowbrow, but we have to do it. Also, guys, on YouTube, make sure you follow Scott's channel at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. I'm going to drop his link also in the chat. You guys just click one of these guys right here: Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Periscope. It's all there. You click that link and it'll take you to Scott's show. Asking for a Euro rap show there.
I want to Jeremy, appreciate your help on that and coming to the show. But we did 2 Friday shows. My good friend Jason Russell and I did, and we went 5 for 5 on predictions for semifinals, for quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals of the games, including nailing both finals, which was Italy over England and Argentina over Brazil in Brazil. So we went 5 for 5 on those. So that's not bad. That's not bad.
That's not bad. Let's get some of that energy for the season this year. We could have some listeners making some money. I'm
a very good consultant. When I start whipping out my own money, things go crazy. So I actually won something like 15 bets in a row for a good friend of mine. And he's like, hey, my bookie is giving me a free $200 bet. You want to put it down on something? I was like, fine. Virginia was a point dog at Duke. And 4th and 17, Duke converts and goes down and kicks a game-winning field goal. Otherwise, the game's over. I'm like, that's the kind of stuff that happens when my money's on the line. So I'm a good consultant. So I'll look at some stuff, and we'll get rid of this 1-bit bonus guy that you have to keep blocking.
Yep, that's man, he is driving me nuts. Different stuff going on there. Don't go there. Don't go to his page. Yeah, guys, that's going to have to do it for the show today. We appreciate everyone who joined in. Also, we're going to give a shout out to all of our people who donated and contributed to the show. Lonnie Alexander, Gary Leeds Palmer, Mo Ron, Based Gase, Broncos 17-0, and Chase Wellner. Chase, also shout out to that meme. He made me chuckle. Lord of the Rings, near and dear to my heart. One of my favorites growing up, still a big fan. So appreciate that. And nothing else to talk about, guys. We got to get on out of here. I got work to do. We both got work to do. So we'll see you again next Thursday, 8 o'clock Mountain Time. Be there, be square. Stay safe.
This Thursday.
Fun.
This Thursday.
This upcoming Thursday, 7:15, to talk Broncos interior defensive line. So that'll be a lot of fun. That's my favorite position in football. So that'll be great. Love y'all. We'll see you next time. Go Broncos.